All right, big news. As it turns out, Kody and Robyn sold the big mansion for $1.9 million. Now, in fairness, they didn't sell the McMansion itself for $1.9 million. They also had an additional 2-acre lot that was right in front of the McMansion that they included in the sale. Therefore, the sale was $1.9 million to include the McMansion and the extra lot. Now, I'm looking at this situation, and I know there was a lot of talk about, oh, they can't do this, and this is illegal, and they're going to be smashed and dashed and bashed against the legal rocks, which is Christine's lawsuit. But I wanted to establish some things that I was thinking and some of the hesitance that I had with regard to this. I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to argue that Kody and Robyn did the right thing. I'm trying to pull coattails so that other people don't make these same damn mistakes. That's the whole purpose of the show. That's what we try to do here. We try to help one another so that we can see things from a different perspective. Because like many of the people who watch the show and many of the people who root for Janelle and Christine, I too have that side where I say, this just isn't fair. It doesn't seem right that all of a sudden the OG3 will have contributed so much of their time, their money, their life force. You know, they gave their youth to this family. They gave their, in Christine and Janelle's case, 6 times over, they gave their womb to this family. Mary, she gave her womb repeatedly to this family to try to build the family up, only to be turned away. And it seems like such a minuscule thing to talk about money, especially as we talk about these big concepts like time, childbirth, bringing children into the world, so on and so forth. But that's the one tangible thing that we can look at and say that if they can't get their time back, they can't get their youth back, they can't get the heartbreak healed and recovered, that pure, unadulterated, unmanipulated, and unmolested heart back, then they need to at least get paid. And that's kind of where I am. And I understand why so many people are kind of leveraging on the idea that Kody and Robyn have to be brought to heel when it comes to some of the financial things that they've been doing to the family. I get it. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that we keep our feet firmly on the ground and recognize what's going on. Now, one of the first things that I noticed is that when it comes to Janelle specifically, and with regard to the McMansion and them selling the house for $1.9 million and then buying another $2.1 million and Christine suing for child support. The reality of it is this mess was strongly influenced by their culture, the culture that they existed in. For a long time, they participated in a religion where they were told that legal stuff is just paperwork, and paper don't matter. That's just that's paper. The marriage certificate, that's just a piece of paper. This deed, this mortgage, that's just paper. We all know what our agreement is. We all know that our beliefs transcend any legal, worldly constraints that the society is trying to place on us. We're already on the outside of society because we have so many people that we're married to, and we have so many wives, and our family is so big and wonderful. We're already on the outside of society. So why should we adhere to those other rules? And what we're discovering is those rules matter. And this is what many of us have been saying since day 1, episode 1, season 1 of this show. When this show first aired, this is what we've been screaming about. It wasn't about, or at least for me and many of the people who I see in the chat box, in my chat box when I do my streaming and in the comment section, it was never about who Kody is sleeping with and what these wives are doing in their bedroom and who they inviting into their bedroom. It was never about that. It was always about protecting these ladies and making sure that they were safe and secure. And by extension, we're protecting the children that they bring into these families. Because the kids are getting left out too. The kids are getting screwed over financially as well. Now, when we talk about the whole situation, a few things stand out to me, especially when we talk about like how Kody is dividing the house and the complications with the OG3 getting anything from the McMansion sale or even a new purchase of the home. Irregardless of the child support claims and all that, we can go into that. I have a lawyer who's coming on, and we're going to talk about those issues from a legal perspective. But when I'm talking about Janelle and I'm listening to what she said, and I put together some of the things she said in the past, I can't escape the idea of, one, how they conducted themselves as a family. And by how you conducted yourself as a family, what are some of the things that Janelle, Mary, and Christine agreed to? Here's some of the things that they said with regard to how the money is being spent, how the house, the McMansion was acquired. Let's take a look at this particular clip, and it will talk about Janelle's perspective on the family culture and how they dealt with money.
Back in the day, our family used to run that we would use all the resources to help one person, then we would all rally to support the other person. That's how it always worked until the last 10 years or so. And all of a sudden it's been about, well, my estate, and everybody needs their own estate. All the family money helped buy the house that Robyn's in, and they have an extra lot there.
I'm not mad at the way they were doing the family. You know, your dollar is my dollar. We bring in money together. We work together. We suffer together. We survive together. We succeed together. So we all throw it in one pot. You don't have a check. It's not your money. It's our money. I don't have a check. It's not my check. It's our money. I'm all on board for that. I think that's a great way to do it. However, when you notice that there is a change or a shift in the family culture and family dynamic, we have to be cognizant of the fact of that change and that shift. We have to recognize it for what it is. And as our situation changes, we may have to change our approach to those situations. And I think that that's only fair, because this is how Janelle is getting jammed up. Oh, we would throw in the money and we would all do this, and we used the family fund to help buy Robyn's house. And when we start talking about family fund, you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a joint bank account. And then, you know, when we talk about like in the big aura of the polygamous families, you know, it's so big and we can't really put our arms around it. As I said with Kody before, when he would say that monogamists don't understand how polygamous families work, I understand how relationships work. I understand how interactions and interpersonal relationships function and how they can become dysfunctional. So I don't understand why I can't understand how polygamous families work. Like same. You don't understand how polygamous family finances work because you're a monogamous. I understand how money works. I understand how if you have a joint savings account or a joint checking account, joint bank account with someone, and say you contribute 90% of the money inside the joint account, and your partner or friend contributes 10% of the money in that joint bank account, if their name appears on the joint account, they have access to 100% of the money in said account. Why? It's not fair. It's completely fair, because if you put in 90% of the money and you overdraw the account, my credit gets jacked up too. So I have skin in the game to a point. Now, clearly you have more skin in the game because you put in 90%, but I have access to 100% of the money. If you have a joint account, you know, for young folks especially, I love her. I love him. I'm going to put his name on my account and he'll have access to it. That way he don't ever have to ask me for money, or she don't ever have to ask me for money. They could show up tomorrow and empty that account. 100%. They can empty that account. If their name appears on it, they can take as much or as little as they want. And that seems like what happened in this particular situation. If Robyn if Mary and Janelle wrote out a check and handed it to Robyn and said, this check is for your house, it's a little more cut and dry. However, it sounds like to me, they took their money from their home sales and deposited into the Kody Brown LLC family account. And then Kody and Robyn took money from the family account and bought that house. That makes things so much more complicated. It's ridiculous. Even Robyn makes reference to it when she talks about how she acquired the house.
The whole plan at that point was for that home, my home, to be kind of an asset for the family. Eventually, when I'm built out on the property, it was never supposed to end up being something that was just mine.
Of course, because she's Robyn, it was never supposed to be something that was just mine. If it wasn't supposed to be just yours and you're using family money to acquire the house, why did you put only your name on it? Why is your and Kody's name the only names on the damn documents? Documents matter. Documents matter. If it's the four corners rule. So if you have a piece of paper and it says deed at the top of it and your name is on that deed and the other person's name isn't, they don't have ownership in that property. Now, you could do a whole lot of try to do some, like I said, forensic accounting. I suggested that. I'd also suggested going and hiring a lawyer and try to dig through a lot of this stuff, but it would require a lot of finance and a lot of money. We can help to alleviate a lot of this problem if you do things the right way. And this is one of the heartbreaking things that I'm watching that Janelle is going through, and even Christine and Mary. The things that they're going through are because they didn't do things the right way. And I think a large part of the reason why they didn't do things the right way is because historically, when they would do things as a family, especially as a poor family, let's keep it all the way a stack. They start off, your pockets are flat, your money is low, your finances are low. You start thinking like, how can we beat the system? And one of the ways that you beat the system is you put down this person's name and you leave off everybody else's name when you're applying for certain benefits, whether it's WIC, SNAP, Section 8, tax returns, so on and so forth, Medicaid, Medicare, insurance, CHIP, whatever you have, right? When you're putting in for those programs, child insurance, CHIP is child insurance, depending on what state you live in. When you put in for those programs, you're switching and flipping and flopping and putting certain people's names on certain things and leaving other people's names off other things. Some people will call that fraud. Some people could make the argument that that's illegal. Now, the problem with that is that there is a term in the legal realm called clean hands doctrine. In order for you to be able to recover any money or damages from somebody, you have to go in with clean hands. You can't be part of the conspiracy to commit a crime and then complain you don't like your cut or somebody robbed or stole from you while in the commission of said crime. So if, we accuse Kody and Robyn of committing fraud, mortgage fraud, because they only put their names on it and they left off the money that they had received from Mary and Janelle, who are people who would be in the first position as far as the loan is concerned, but they left their name off and Mary and Janelle were aware of it, then that becomes complicated because now you don't have clean hands. You weren't tricked. In fact, you're part of the conspiracy. And I think that coloring outside those lines is where Kody is living and thriving, is that he pulls them into making these kinds of crazy decisions, where it doesn't seem like it's that bad and nobody's really getting hurt and it makes perfect sense and it's something that we're agreeing to amongst us, and they get them to go along with it. Then all of a sudden, when the problem starts and you want to start getting an attorney involved, you want to start getting law enforcement involved, you want to have a judge tell you that you can recover your funds. Now all of a sudden is, look, if they say I did something wrong, you did it wrong too. Now, how do we know that this is the case? When Janelle said this.
When I put the money into the house, I said, well, I think it would be fair if all of our names were on the mortgage. And he's like, no, we need to protect Robyn's estate. She needs to have it so it's hers, so it's ours. So with me leaving or trying to go somewhere and do something different, I want my value of the property. And I'd like to recoup some of the money I put into Robyn's house.
Now, in fairness, I hope Janelle gets everything that she put into the house. I hope she gets her money back. I truly do. But it sounds like she knew that Kody was deceiving people, that he was, in fact, if we're going to use the word fraud, that he was committing fraud, that Janelle knew he was committing fraud. And by her silence, she allowed it to happen. In fairness, a huge defense in them preventing any accusation of fraud or them being included as far as a co-conspirator or a conspirator after the fact when it came to fraud, with regard to Kody and the mortgage and how they allocated the funds, where they got the funds from, how they took their money and used it for Robyn's house. A way they could have sidestepped it is if they would have filed suit immediately. And even speaking of timelines with regard to filing suit, I do have concerns about the statute of limitations regarding their contribution to Robyn and Kody. Now, you could make the argument, I think, that because there's an ongoing payment and an ongoing agreement, that they possibly could have the statute of limitation reset each month that Kody and Robyn make a payment. But it could very reasonably be argued that if you knew they took your money and you knew that they put their name on the documents or the deed and they excluded you and you don't have rights to the house, that you should have filed suit 2, 3, 4 years ago when they first purchased the home back in 2019, which at the time would have been about 3 years. I think in Utah, they had a 2-year statute of limitations. So they might be operating outside the statute of limitations, which also might be why it took so long for Kody and Robyn to decide to sell the house. Now, above everything else, I just want to be very clear. I want Janelle, Mary, Christine to get everything that they deserve, everything that they've contributed to the relationship. I hope they get that money back and then some. I hope they get it back tenfold. I hope that they're able to do it. But I just want to highlight these points because I don't want to have people falling into the trap that based off of what somebody said, that somehow that's going to prevent the thing that's going to happen to you. When you have these types of verbal agreements, these oral agreements, and you say you said one thing and the other person says you said that thing and blah, blah, blah. One, even if you said that they said this and they agreed to it, they could always come in there and deny it. And we all know this. Like, I'm not telling folks that something that they don't know. The second part of it is, even with the tapes, it becomes very complicated, especially when you talk about mortgages and land and property, because as far as I know, in all 50 states of the United States, anytime you transfer any real estate, all contracts and codicils must be written down. You can't have an oral agreement when it comes to a house sale or it comes to money deposits with regard to real estate. You can't say that based off a conversation that we had, we came to an agreement. It has to be written down somewhere. Frankly, I don't see Kody writing this down, saying, yeah, Mary and Janelle gave me X amount of dollars in the X amount account, and we agreed that it was going to be as a loan or an investment, and they were going to get their money back. I don't see it. I do see it going into the Kody Brown LLC joint bank account and him using the money from the joint bank account to buy something he wants to buy. And that becomes a problem. Even Robyn says it here.
We were working together for so long, and we didn't actually stop working together until, just recently when Janelle's bringing up, that Kody and I owe her something. It's like, how do you calculate? How do you figure that out? It's so confusing.
Oh, it's so confusing. I don't know what to do. This is how they get you. Because the sad part is, Robyn will sit there and play confused and don't know what's going on. This is what I was talking about, where you guys had an agreement and all of a sudden somebody done forgot and they got confused as to who gave what, when, where, and how. Even though they came to you and asked you for the money. They asked you to give them the money so that she could have a 5-bedroom house in Arizona so she could house or each one of her kids could have their own room. She asked the family for that. But now all of a sudden she's confused and she don't remember nothing. And this is why you have this stuff written down. It's not enough to catch it on tape. Then we can get into the whole thing of, like, when it comes to judges and you sitting there in front of a judge, judges don't go through and try to figure out your money. They just don't. They will not sit down. If you have a joint bank account, they're not going to go line by line and try to figure out who gave what, when, where, and how, and who spent what, when, where, and how. If you have a joint bank account and you drew from that joint bank account, then it's shame on you for putting a name on that joint bank account or depositing your check into said joint bank account. That's just how they do it. And it's jacked up and it's messed up. And a lot of people fall into this situation, but it's just terrible. It's a terrible situation. Finally, one of the things that they do, especially in this culture, and that's why I say it's kind of the cultural conditioning that Janelle is falling victim to, is that she comes in, she wants to have a conversation, and because of the way they do this culture, Kody doesn't respect Janelle. Robyn doesn't respect Janelle. They see her as an asset. They see her as a resource. As much as Kody talks about like hypergamy and, the women are trying to get him for his resources, the truth of the matter is Kody and Robyn see Janelle as a resource. They're using her. And then when she comes in and she wants to start talking about money and getting her money right, all of a sudden, Kody wants to start talking about this.
I know that you've been not wanting to necessarily discuss the property, but let's kind of put our heads together because it's coming up. I mean, it's almost February.
We got months to go.
We have really only about 3.5 months. And so if we don't have the cash to pay it off, we're going to need to do some different financing.
And then Kody comes back with but what about us, our relationship? Don't you think we should talk about that first? He always puts romance ahead of finance. This makes no sense. Isn't this one of the things that they criticize ladies about? Men are supposed to be super logical. Women are supposed to be super emotional. So who's sitting here talking about business and who's sitting here trying to talk about love and emotions and feelings and all that other gooey goo stuff? At the end of the day, Kody doesn't give a damn about love, finance, and all that. He's focused on trying to get as much as he can from this relationship. And the sad part is that I am not bashing Janelle, Mary, or Christine for being open, caring, and loving and generous with their partner and their family. If anything, I think it should be celebrated. I think it should be highly sought after that you get a partner who doesn't think about finances and is willing to give you anything to make the family work and work well. It is willing to sacrifice for themselves in order to give to their partner. I think that that's something that should be rewarded. I think that that's something that should be cherished. But when you are that type of person who is open and giving and caring and generous, and you're tied to a taker, then you being open, generous, and everything else, you're just going to get taken advantage of. And what we're watching is the end result of the OG3 being taken advantage of. They were told the whole time that paperwork doesn't matter. Don't worry about the legal stuff because paperwork don't matter. The only thing that matters is the family and our word and our commitment to one another. But what they're discovering is that paper, those oral contracts ain't worth the paper it's not printed on. It doesn't mean anything. Let me know what you guys think down below. I know this issue is controversial. I know people have strong feelings about it, but I want to hear about it down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life.